Quick point before the video starts. I will try to put in the description of the videos the gameplay starts in the description, a timestamp for it. If I make a mistake in the introduction, I'll try to put it on screen. If I don't know how to do that, then I will just put it in the description. That's all. Welcome to Die for the Lich. I am trying to beat my personal high score of 28,800. I'm trying to get a 30,000 run, and I'm gonna be uploading a video once a day of this playthrough. I'll be uploading maybe 1 to 2 games around this time of these attempts to beat my high score. And hopefully I can teach and be educational and give some insight and explanation for my thought process and be entertaining. The maximum score theoretically in a run is 33,000, I believe. I could be off by a little bit. That's if you take the elite fight in every single path you get, and all maximum fights in the right slots. And what I mean by the right slots are elites. So in the first section, the elite is guaranteed to be in the 3rd slot. Each slot up is an increase of 250 points. And I believe the final 3rd section is a little bit different, where the normal enemy, if it's in the 1st slot, would be 3,000, and the final slot would be 3,500 instead of 3,250 and 3,500. I'll just go in here. Maybe I'll make it easier to visualize what I'm talking about. I'll go on Dante's just because I like being on Dante's. But the first enemy, it starts at 1,000, second's 1,250, third's 15, fourth's 1,750. I believe this counts as a slot. I'm pretty sure it's 2,250 here, 25, and this is 2,750. And you would think this would count as a slot. That'd make this 3,250 and this is 35. I believe it's just a little different. It's 35 and 3,035. The spot the elite occupies, it can be random. It could be here or here, and it could be here, here, or here. The elites worth twice as many points as the slots in. So the difference between the elite being here and here, it's a 500 point change. And the difference between the elite being here and here, I believe it's also a 500 point change, not just a 250. And yeah. So that's the points distribution. And if you're missing a fight, so right here we're missing this fight. 3,500 points we're missing, and we're missing no fights here. So instead of 33,000, the maximum score you can get on this run is 29,500. There's a fair amount of runs where you're missing like 2 fights, and so you lose like 6,000. It's a 27,000 run, something like that. It's a max score. So we're just looking for a playable run, which is the elite, 2-pass weapon chest, or an option that's 250 points less. That's just 4 normal enemies. Ideally, you get both options every starter fight, because it depends on the starter chest. Sometimes you want to go the 4 enemies, sometimes you want to go the elite with 2 enemies, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I think a really good score is about 13% off the theoretical maximum. And what that means is essentially you killed every single enemy on the 2nd turn without a non-critical item usage. And the only way you don't get punished for a non-critical item usage is if you're on an elite and you use an attack and it kills them, the enemy. You get like the exact amount needed to kill them. Then you don't get punished. Otherwise, you get punished unless the non-critical item usage is the last thing to proc before the round ends. Essentially, only exclusive to a weapon at the moment. Maybe like you could use Rotten Chance and throw on D4s onto a shield, and that kills the enemy. But you didn't like finish using the item, but it wouldn't hurt your score if you finish an enemy that way. But so yeah, 13% off, 33,000. You lose 2,490, so let's just say 4,300. Drops the score down from 33,000 down to 28,700 theoretical maximum on that. And if you take the 4 normal enemies, it's a little bit like 220 points less. So instead of, let's just say 200 points less, instead of 28,700, it's 28,500 theoretical maximum. Less if you, so theoretical maximum is 33. A really good run, sorry, I'm misspeaking a little. A really good run is between 28,500 28,700. That's what I'd consider a really good run. On the start, you're not likely to see that only 13% drop. On the starter section, you'll know you're playing solidly if you see your end score between 4,300 to 4,700 by the time you hit the shop. The theoretical maximum you can get, 1,000, 1,250, 3,000, 1,000, 3,000, 1,750, 5,750. 13% off of that would be like 750, so 5,000. That's 300 more than what you're likely going to see for playing really well. But you're going to make up that 300 by likely if you get the kill like a normal enemy here or here for 3,000 instead of like, you know, 2,500 performance, losing 13, like a 2,600 performance, 13% off of 3,000, 2,600. You're likely to kill that enemy the first turn without a fail if you're playing well and you're set up well. And so you make up for the deficiency in the first section by later on once you have your stuff going. I'd like to explain a little bit how this game works. I'm not a fan of a little bit of things, but I'll get into that. So the main thing for maximizing score is to kill enemies faster. The penalty of passing a turn tends to be about 13% off the maximum score if you pass a turn. Something around there. That 13% gradually becomes less the more turns that pass. So instead of, and maybe it's like a 13% off of that 13%. That might be the case. What I'm thinking is, it's something like the first turn you lose 13%, the second turn you lose 11.7%, the third turn you lose like 10.5% from passing the turn of that maximum score. So like on Anaku, you lose 1,053, 13% would be 1,040, pretty close. Second turn you lose another 800 points, so 11.7% would be something like 940 nearly, instead of the 800 points you lose. But it's something like that. Progressively less and less of the same effect. Another way, so that's one way. Another way you lose points is by taking damage. I should explain that last. So I'll explain that last. Another way to lose points is to get a non-critical usage. Every non-critical usage is somewhere around 8% point loss. And for damage, it's now getting the damage because it'll make more sense what the topic afterwards, which is strategically taking damage because of the way the game works at the moment, unfortunately. Every point of damage you take is roughly 8% point loss as well. And it's progressively less and less for the more points of damage you take. So like essentially taking 2 points of damage, you're not losing 16% of your score. On elites, you would expect you lose twice as much because they're worth twice as much. I think it might be that you lose a little bit more than twice as much, but it could be you lose just twice as much. But the reason why I think it's a little bit more is because when you're doing a fight, let's say you have the old Bible, you need a 6 to block damage. Let's say you're fighting the stag. You could just take 1 point of damage, or you're fighting that one wolf that does 1 point of damage on the first turn. You could taking 1 point of damage is the same as if you were to roll a d6 on this item and get a 1 to 5, an 83% chance. You block all the damage, but you still lose a point for not getting a critical, which I'm not a fan of, because it incentivizes you to just take 1 point of damage instead of using that d6, because you could use that d6 later on in your tray on your items to increase your damage, and maybe you kill the enemy a turn sooner, which drastically helps your points. And so instead you're playing just to take a point of damage rather than gamble on that 16% chance that you get the critical and then you don't lose any points and you block all the damage. The nice thing about higher numbers is there's more opportunities to get a critical. For example, if you use a d6 on the 6, it's not just the 6 that helps you, it's actually the 2 that helps you as well, because then you can roll a d4 and you have a 25% chance to land on a 4, and then you get a crit as well. So you took that 16% chance on the 6 and you failed, but you landed on a 2, and now you get another 25% chance to get a crit. So the higher the number is, the more wiggle room there is for manipulation, the easier it is to get a crit. Stuff like ghost teeth you can use for manipulation as well. So like if you were, let's say you get a 1 on the d6, you could put that ghost tooth on now, and it's a 2, and then you can roll a d4 and you're at that 2 again, so you have a 25% chance to get a crit. If you get a 2, you can roll it, then you roll a d4, and now it's a 2 or a 4 gets you a crit, because if you get a 2, then you use the ghost tooth and it takes the highest value, so you get a 2 again, and that's 6, so you get a crit. 3, you get a crit already, because then the ghost tooth copies the 3, you get a 6. And 6 benefits you. So that's where like something like a ghost tooth helps with manipulation. I bring that up to talk. The next point is where you need stuff to help with manipulation. So we're talking about bone dice, especially on Dante's. We're talking about prediction dice. We're talking about stuff like ghost teeth. If you do not hit any of those things that you need to hit, then you have to take like 1 to 2 tokens in these 2 sections to help with your manipulation to like more easily guarantee criticals and like clog up your deck a little bit. On Undertaker, it's a slower build and a harder thing to use. It's more like you need 3 to 4 tokens in the later section if you don't have prediction dice and manipulation. The more manipulation you have, the less coins you have to use, the thinner your deck is, the stronger your deck is. On Dante's, you can get on the starter chest, so this is where I'll get into the starter chest, where on the route, so the really good maps is when you get 4 normal enemies to select on the first section, and you get an option where it's like this, where you get 2 enemies, a weapon chest, and an elite, so this path. This path works as well, but not this one, because you don't want to hit 2 weapon chests. But you don't have an option to have 4 normal enemies. But let's just assume you did. In the starter chest, if you were to have a weapon, that makes the 4 normal enemies super good, and the weapon chest loses its value, so then you don't want to go on this weapon chest elite path. But vice versa, on the 4 normal enemies, what you're hoping to do is you're hoping to get really good dice to use, like a gambler's die, a lucky die, prediction die, draw dice. In the instance where you're not getting those, or you're getting something of more value, so let's say you get a draw D12 or a high draw card that is risky to use a lot of bone dice on. That's not necessarily as valuable as something as, let's say, 3 tokens in the early stage. So you'd rather have the tokens. If you start with tokens, there's only a certain amount of value you're expecting to get from the shop. When you go the 4 token path, you need to buy the weapon. And the weapon's going to be between 1 to 3, but very often 2 to 3. And the weapon is going to be more valuable than the weapon chest a large percentage of the time. So I rate the weapon chest at around 2 values of immediate token value, because then you don't have to buy the weapon from the weapon shop guaranteed, because you very oftentimes choose the weapon, unless the item in here is a Gok stat shield, which is like the best item in the game, but it's very rare that you get a rare in the weapon chest. But you can get a Gok stat shield, you can get the Rotten Chance, but it's very often you get at best like a pitchfork. If you're super lucky, you get that reusable sword, which I think is the best uncommon item. But it's very common you get like the rusted sword or the repeat dagger or another weapon that's like a 6 value. But that's helpful in just having a second item means you can attack twice, which helps with clearing the elites faster. But reusable items are super good because then you're able to kill enemies a lot sooner. That's why the reusable sword is super amazing. Reusable swords can make a run very, very good. I'll get into that later, but what I'm trying to get to, yeah, I'm just explaining a little bit of the difference. So weapon, good for normal enemy path if you have that option. Tokens, better for 2 enemies elite weapon chest if you get that option. And I would say a lucky die and gambler's die are both amazing. On Dante's, I would say the lucky die plus bones or gambler's die plus bones is even better than just the item itself, because it helps with manipulation. It's like getting the 1 to 2 coins early that you need, except they're bones, which are even better than coins, especially on Dante's. Because the benefit of reducing your score by 1 is better than increasing your score by 1 in my eyes, because you could, yes, coins help with guarantee of the critical, but you can use larger dice with the bone and maybe you land on the critical and also you use fewer dice and you can decrease it from a fail to a critical. I just think having the option to roll larger dice is going to benefit you more than rolling smaller dice and then bump it up the score. But on Dante's, the bones serve that purpose and you get a reroll. So even better than coins are bones in my eyes, and so instead of 1 to 2 coins later on, starting with 2 bones is just going to be super good. Obviously in the best decks, you don't need those 2 bones because you have like infinite card draw or whatever, that where the 2 bones you'd rather have like a bone d10 or something, and so they're clogging up the space a little bit, but even still it's like not a huge deal, as opposed to coins where it is a little bit of a deal. Now, I would say a lucky die is still better on the 4 normal enemies, and I'd say a gambler's die is better on the elite. My thought process is the thing you're trying to get from the normal enemies, as I said, is lucky die, gambler, prediction, draw. Draw is better than prediction, but if you, and on Dante's, bone dice are also super good. This is where it plays into the gambler's die. If you have a gambler's die, getting a bone die is super good for it, but again, a crow skull is way better than getting the bone die. But on a lucky die, if you get a bone die, you only need 1 bone for the lucky die to do its effect, where you use a couple of dice for the lucky die at the beginning, trying to knock it a critical, then you throw on your large lucky die at the end, get it to a low value, and then you re-roll it with like a hag's foot or a rabbit's foot. You don't want to have to use a rabbit's foot on a lucky die, but or a bone in Dante's case. And so you only need 1 reroll with the lucky die, as opposed to with the gambler's die, every single reroll is a benefit, which is where you want things that like fish hook, crow skull, even the draw trinket, and then you can the lucky star, which draws 3. Hag's foot, rabbit's foot. All of those have a lot more value so you don't get another gambler's die, or would you rather get one of those rerolls, there's less value. But if you don't have any gambler's die, then you have a much better chance of getting it here than needing the reroll to begin with. So 4 normal enemies tends to be better on just like a general run, but as I said, if you get a lucky or a gambler's, this path's fine. If you get a weapon, you almost always go the 4 normal enemies if it's an option. If you get tokens, you almost always go the elite side. I think that's pretty much a solid recap. I might be missing a little bit, but because we're missing this fight, this run's not really playable. I'm just gonna reset and I'll jump back in with some gameplay of a run where I get an item to start with that's really good. But I can just open up this chest and talk a little bit, and let's just pretend there is an option of 4 normal enemies to maybe get some thoughts on what I would choose. So, Tooth Dagger, it's a weapon. It's okay. I might reset this run if it was like, so on this run you obviously reset because there's not a 4 normal enemies. You wouldn't want to grab this Tooth Dagger, the reroll D10, it's okay, but it's not amazing. But because we're gonna hit a weapon chest anyways, this has no value, pretty much. So this would be a reset. But if there's a 4 normal enemies, you could grab this dagger and you could go the 4 normal enemies and play the run for some fun. Rust Sword's really good, I think, because if you're gonna manipulate it, then you can add on a D8 afterwards if you get a crit, and it increases the damage. The D8's average is 4.5, would increase the damage from 5 to 9.5, so when you choose to manipulate it, it's really strong. Whereas like the Broken Dagger and the Rusty Shield, I would just like reset on those if they were options. The Broken Dagger's nice for bone enemies and like the Bone Mage, where I think it's the first enemy here is often a Bone Mage if it's just a normal enemy, or if it's elite in the second. I might be mixed up a little bit, but you know the mage I'm talking about, where you hit him and he does that debuff where you take 3 damage for every bone that's still on the tray. But so that's where it's situationally nice, but 4 is harder to get a crit on. So easy numbers where the number matches a certain die value are easier to get a crit on than like odd numbers. For example, the 5 on the Rusty Sword's a little bit harder than a 6, but like a 4. The reason why I don't like the Rusty Dagger a whole lot is because there's a 25% chance you land on a 2, and even if you have a bone, then you could get a 4, and then you can't get a crit on it. So it's harder to manipulate. There's like more risk. I'm not a huge fan of 4 values. That's what makes Undertaker a little bit hard, is that the shield, that you have to replace it with this item pretty often. And so you need like to get you need to buy not just a weapon in the shop, but a weapon and a shield. So you need more tokens, and because you need more tokens, you can't take as many good dice, and because you don't have as many good dice, and it's harder to manipulate, you need even more tokens for the later section. So your deck gets clogged up, and it's slower. It's not as good. But yeah, that's a general rundown. I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully it was helpful. And I'll jump back in when there's a run that I would not really set on, but would be interesting. But welcome back to some Die for the Lich. We've got 4 normal enemies and a path with 2 enemies, an elite, and a weapon chest for a section, and then 3 enemies and 2 enemies. Unfortunately, bottom and middle means 750 points lost on these elites, so the maximum score is 32,258 for the elite side and 32,000 for the normal side. An extremely good score would be around a little under 28,000. That would be essentially killing every enemy, including the elites, on the second turn with no fails, pretty much. Would be a 28k run. I got these options. So the 3 tokens are better on the elite side, and the sword is bad on the elite side because you're wasting this weapon chest, and a weapon is good for this side. But because it's such a good weapon, because the short sword is the best and common weapon, I'm actually going to take it. I'm going to go this side. Because now, if we just get a lot of dice draw, then we can use this a whole bunch. Like, if we got a lot of bone dice and manipulation, then with a lot of dice draw and manipulation is what we're looking for, and then we'll go super crazy. A little bit sad, but it is what it is. 1 fail. That's fine. If we kill next turn, we do 791. Shouldn't be too hard to kill next turn, but we'll see. Gamble a little. Alright. So now even less points. So 2 fails. 725 instead of 791. 1 token. D20 is just terrible. We know we're gonna have to block because we're probably not gonna kill unless we get a crit. We could test actually. 12.5% chance that we get a crit with that. Let's gamble. That's fine. So 2 fails. If we get a crit, 1 in 4 chance to get a crit, 1 in 4 that it bumps up to 7, not worth risking, and then 50% chance it fails. But doing that damage, it's going to fail anyways. So the only question was, do we want to go for the small chance that we get a kill, which is going to be somewhere around a 30% chance to kill on the first turn if we go for it, or we could take 1 fail and likely kill next turn anyways. I'm going to use this just for the manipulation, just to have it on my tray. There we go. So 30% chance we kill with 0 fails on turn 1, which would be 1,250 points. Or we go to the second turn, or we could guarantee go the second turn with 1 fail, which I think is something like like 1,080, so it'd be like 140 more points than what we just got. So a 30% chance to get like 170 more points than what we could have gotten, pretty much guaranteed. So gambling for that, 110 points on average lost from the gamble, so not great. I am going to take this leather die just because I like to draw a whole bunch. Big die is a little bit nice. Not at the moment, but we're going to take the crit. And we're not going to be able to kill this turn no matter what. Might as well wait till next turn with the reusable. We're going to use these bones and see if we can preserve them. Doesn't really look like it, unfortunately. I'm gonna try. Yeah, it is what it is. One fail. We want to use the D12, even though there's a decent chance for it to fail, just to use this bone to draw a bunch if we wanted. That's my thought process behind it. That Obsidian D6 is really nice for this. I'm just trying to get tokens for the shop. Very, very nice. I'm actually gonna start with this and see what it lands on. Okay, now I can go like this. I'm actually just gonna take the fail and then use this here. Very likely kill. We should have started with this after we got that crit. We should have just used the bone D6 here, get a crit, and then go to this. So, another mistake. Costed 228 points. So I could have 340 points more if I was playing properly. Gokstad shield, so amazing. We could grab this too. I don't think there's anything better. So we're just gonna do it. Helps our draw for this. We're in a really good spot. We just need more manipulation. We're gonna start with a bone die. And then we're gonna go a little bit like that. We're definitely gonna be attacking. We wanna hit this guy to get, we're gonna use this D6 instead of the D8 because we don't wanna go over too much because we'd rather use the bones if possible to reroll this once we get a critical to do more damage and preserve some dice. That's actually good for us because if we can get a critical with these, and like if we get a 4, or we don't have to use the bones, and we can do it twice. That is not good for us. But we'll see. Yeah, you don't like to see that. Oh, we grabbed the eye patch. Oh, that's amazing. So I'm a little bit on default right now. So eye patch, I'll pay more attention. I know we're talking about like needing a lot of manipulation, and we don't have much right now. The coin would be fairly good here. Not taking the coin's really greedy, honestly. So on Dante's, you generally want like 1 to 2 coins if you're not getting bone dice or like bone prediction dice or other manipulation things. But if you get card draw, which we have a little bit, then you don't need as much. It's pretty similar for Undertaker, but instead of like 1 to 2, you need 3 to 4. 1 coin right now would be pretty beneficial. And later on, it's not so much beneficial, but we got decent draw. I think we can take the 1 coin and not have it be terrible. And then we just try to get a crit. We're gonna use this. Very nice. We can very likely get some damage if we have this coin and some more manipulation. I wanna just preserve the rest, keep our discard low, so hopefully we have a higher chance to draw the star and draw everything here. Very, very nice. We're gonna do this D12, then bone D6, another D6. Very nice. And we're gonna re-roll this, draw. Even though we can't draw one more, I wanted to re-roll just to not worry about this, but I'll just kill this one and that'll be fine. Then we switch over to this, get the critical to kill this so we can keep using our sword. Get some more damage off here and kill him next turn. Hopefully. There we go, very nice. Maybe even kill this turn. Decent chance now. Yep. Very big, very, very big. We can end this section at 13k instead of 12.5, then we'll be in a really good spot. We don't have like anything that makes our damage go insane at the moment. Otherwise, this would be really nice for Anaku and this elite right here. But unfortunately, we don't have any gamblers die or ghost die or anything. So, and this does carry some value, but not a whole lot at the moment. Obviously, it makes something like Ghost Die way better, but it might be a skip. It's some manipulation. It's some manipulation. I'll grab it. We'll grab the coin. I'll take a little bit, slightly more manipulation. And I'm gonna play it safe here. We lost a fair amount of manipulation. We'll just kill this turn. This is a situation where we could use this on the 4 to get a crit. Hoping just to not. Now I gotta use our star here, honestly, so we can use this. Yeah, I hate to see it. Yeah, I hate to see it. Gonna get some more damage. We're gonna kill this one. We're gonna do some drawing here. Very nice. Alright, we can keep going now. I don't mind using this too much, honestly. Get the crit, draw 2, our bone dice. Preserve manipulation for this. We can't use a D10 yet because we haven't used these dice. I'm gonna use the 8 over here. And then use these to kill this one, and then have manipulation for the D10 to get over 10 to kill this one. And now all we have to do is this, and have it somewhat low. But we can just do it 2 swings. Also at the time, like it was. And there we go. Second turn kill. I believe it was no fails, so yeah, alright. More card draw. Super amazing. More card draw. Super amazing. Now, unfortunately, we're just lacking damage. So right here, it would just be super amazing if you could just fight like 3 enemies instead of like 3 normal enemies and skip the relic here to have a higher chance to get gamblers die. But honestly, the final section you can only fight 2 enemies. But 1 elite is equivalent to fighting 2 enemies, by the way. So this slot, the maximum score is 3,000, but if it's elite, it's 6,000. This is 3,500. It could be 7,000. This elite right here, I believe it can be 2,500 is the normal fight, so the max is 5,000. And this elite a normal enemy here would be 1500, the third enemy. 1, 2, 3. This should be 1000, 1250, 1500. This would be, so this would, if this was a normal enemy, 1500, third spot, but it's 3000 since it's elite. So max if you get turn 1 kill, no fail. I am kind of not wanting to use this D10. What I'm thinking is I want to use this D8 to get a slightly lower roll, higher chance to land on a 5 or something than for this. And then since it's slightly lower roll, then we can use a D4 and D6 more comfortably. And maybe if it's like a low roll, like a 3 or 4, then on the D4 with this, it can make up for the crit. 6. Okay. Hey, very nice, very nice. Very likely there's going to be a fail, so I'm just going to use this bone right here and draw again. Accept the fail. Nice. 14. It would have been whatever. That's. I should spend a little bit more time thinking about which enemy it would be, what number I want to get to. 1's a pretty bad number, so it's just like 4 or 5. And so you're just thinking about the average of a D6 versus D8, so 3.5, 4.5. Half a step away from 4, half a step away from 4, half a step away from 5, 1.5 steps away from 5. So again, this 18 to 4 would be way better than the 19 to 5. And 1 was just terrible, so I just should have hit this one, but it is what it is. We're gonna start with we finished with something low to get with a 1, so we're wanting to save these and like a bone. We use the bone, get to 7, kill. We use this, we write this and this, and then we kill. Now I just kill them next turn. Just have something nice, clean, and easy. We do 8, and then we try to get this to 10 to kill. Because we're wanting to get this curse off. We're gonna actually get it off on the next fight. We should just preserve our score. So I shouldn't have been using it, but. And now I use this, get to 12, throw 2 bones, it's gonna kill. So I shouldn't have used this earlier, it decreased our score a bit. We probably could have gotten like 1,000 more. If we're a little luckier on that card draw and finish the turn prior, and then we didn't use this. Crow Skull, it's amazing. When you get 3,500 here, it's gonna be pretty easy with Crow Skull to get 3,500. But I guess we're just gonna take 1 fail, hope to get a crit, so that yeah, I don't know. Do you just like not use this on Anakun a lot, and just like do a whole bunch of card draw nonsense and just use this? That might be the best play for score. Very nice. I obviously should have re-rolled this for the eye patch and just try and get more bones with this. We're gonna use a bone to draw. I'm gonna throw this on. Draw. Draw. Use it. Then we're gonna save bones for this to draw back our star, and on this for this. We're gonna save this D10 for over here. We're just gonna try and not crit on stuff. We're gonna try and not like go over. Sorry, I'm speaking poorly. We can't use these trinkets on. We want to draw this D12 and save as many bones as we can. Nice. Alright, so now we have a kill. With this, we can get the stack lower by 1. We also want to try to get a kill with the bones. There we go. So now it's free. Now it's freed up and we can use it. 3,500. Yeah, imagine we had 1,000 more, because we could potentially kill Anaku on turn 1. The bone's decent. Right now we need to hit this, this, this. That bone would be pretty nice, but we don't want to clog the deck. The bone would be really nice. I'm gonna clog the deck. I'm gonna risk it. Because we kind of need as many stuff to use to help draw, so we have our infinite draw, since we don't have fish hook or anything like that, so that we can hopefully kill turn 1 Anaku with no fails. We need so much manipulation. That's why I want to grab the bone, so we have more manipulation. I'm gonna just go like that. Alright. Then we're gonna crit here. Use it. We need to draw. We need to draw this so that we can get more bones to draw our star again. Huge. Then we use this, and we use this just so we get more bones. Now we switch over to this, start using this to draw more. Once we draw our lucky star, we'll be golden. We're gonna try to get the crit here. Alright, we just draw. And draw. Try and get it back to not crit. Crit fail. Acceptable. Very big. Now just draw a whole bunch here again. We're gonna use this again. Save our bones. Use this. And start drawing until we get another draw. There we go. And then we just gotta draw to make sure we have enough damage. We have plenty of damage, but we can just draw again our star if we want to, or the crow. It's good. Yep, and there's our star. Now we can have a little fun. Very nice. Boop boop. Add on this. We add on this. We add this again. We don't even have to use this time because we have this. So we kept going. Same from a draw with no fails. Turn one on, clue kill. 8,000 could have beat our PV by a little bit if we didn't use this on the elite like we shouldn't have. And we didn't take that 340 mistake in the beginning, but hope that was enjoyable.